The city skyline stretched endlessly before him, bathed in the golden hues of twilight. Tyler adjusted his camera lens, angling it just right to capture the interplay of light and shadow dancing across the buildings. He was so lost in the moment that he barely registered the sound of approaching footsteps until a deep, authoritative voice cut through the evening air. "Hands where I can see them." Tyler froze, heart skipping a beat. He turned slowly, raising his hands in exaggerated compliance. Standing a few feet away was a tall, broad-shouldered man in a neatly pressed police uniform. His sharp blue eyes were locked onto Tyler with an intensity that sent an unexpected shiver down his spine. Officer, I swear this isn't what it looks like," Tyler said, flashing a boyish grin. The cop, his name tag read Montgomery, wasn't amused. "You're trespassing. This building is off limits." "Technically, no," Tyler corrected. "My sister owns this place. I was just..." Click. The cold bite of steel snapped around his wrist. "You can explain that down at the station." Tyler let out an exaggerated sigh, shaking his head. "Well, if you wanted to get me in handcuffs, you could have just asked." A muscle in Montgomery's jaw twitched, but he didn't react. Instead, he led Tyler down the stairwell with practiced ease, his grip firm but careful. Tyler smirked, glancing up at him. "So, Officer Handsome, do I at least get one phone call?" For the first time, Montgomery hesitated, just for a fraction of a second. But Tyler caught it, and that was enough to spark something dangerous between them. The police station was quieter than Tyler expected. He had envisioned the typical Hollywood chaos, phones ringing, officers shouting, criminals handcuffed to chairs, but instead, the place was calm, almost sterile. Officer Montgomery hadn't said a word since they left the rooftop, and Tyler found himself itching to break the silence. "So, is this how you usually spend your Friday nights? Wrangling up charming photographers?" he quipped as Montgomery led him toward the booking desk. Montgomery shot him a look, sharp, assessing, but still unreadable. "You talk too much." Tyler grinned. "And you don't talk enough. Balance is important in a relationship. You know." The officer exhaled, clearly unamused. Tyler, however, wasn't about to let this brick wall of a man kill his good mood. He leaned against the desk as Montgomery handed over his ID to the desk sergeant. "Tyler Bennett, freelance photographer. No prior arrests." The sergeant read aloud, raising an eyebrow. "You sure you want to process this one, Monty? Doesn't look like much of a threat." Montgomery hesitated, just for a fraction of a second. "Trespassing is still a crime." "Alleged trespassing," Tyler corrected, "and I'd be happy to prove my innocence. Over dinner, maybe?" Montgomery ignored him, but Tyler caught the way his jaw tensed slightly. "Interesting." A moment later, the sergeant sighed and slid Tyler's ID back across the counter. "Unless the property owner wants to press charges, there's no point in booking him." Montgomery's fingers drummed against the desk. Tyler could practically see the gears turning in his head. He wasn't a man who liked loose ends, and letting Tyler go scot-free probably didn't sit well with his sense of duty. Then, finally, "Fine, but if you're so innocent, you won't mind coming along while I verify your story." Tyler blinked. "Wait, are you inviting me on a ride-along?" "Because I'm flattered, officer." "Really? But I don't usually get into cars with strangers unless there's at least a promise of dessert." "Get moving," Montgomery ordered, steering him toward the exit. Outside, the city was alive with neon lights and the hum of distant traffic. Montgomery led Tyler to his squad car, opening the passenger door with an air of reluctant tolerance. "Buckle up," he said flatly. Tyler slid into the seat, grinning. "Wow, first date and you're already taking me places. Should I be worried about where this is going?" Montgomery shut the door with a little more force than necessary. As they pulled into traffic, Tyler stole a glance at his unlikely companion. He was beginning to think that under all that rigid authority and impeccable uniform, there was something else, something guarded, something interesting. And Tyler loved interesting. The hum of the engine filled the silence between them as Officer Montgomery steered the squad car through the dimly lit streets. Tyler watched the city blur past, neon reflections dancing against the windshield. Despite the rigid posture and firm grip on the wheel, Montgomery's presence had shifted, less cop on duty, more man at a crossroads. "So," Tyler drawled, stretching slightly in his seat, Is this the part where you take me somewhere dark and scary to interrogate me properly? Montgomery shot him a side glance. Unimpressed. You just don't shut up. Do you? Not when I'm having fun. Montgomery exhaled through his nose, shaking his head, but Tyler caught the ghost of something at the corner of his mouth. Amusement? No way. The man was a fortress, built from rules and restraint. But Tyler had always loved a good challenge. After a few more turns, they pulled up in front of an old diner, the neon sign flickering between open and pen. Montgomery threw the car in park but didn't move. You hungry? He asked abruptly. Tyler blinked. He hadn't expected that. Depends. Are you asking me out, officer? I'm making sure you don't pass out from low blood sugar and become my responsibility. Montgomery replied flatly. Don't read into it. Tyler smirked. Too late. Inside, the diner was nearly empty, save for a waitress who looked like she'd been working the night shift for a decade too long. They slid into a booth. Montgomery across from him, stiff and unreadable. Tyler drummed his fingers against the table. So, you always this friendly? Or am I just special? You're something. All right, Montgomery muttered, flipping through the menu. But as the minutes stretched, the tension between them shifted. It was subtle at first, a slight softening around Montgomery's edges. A flicker of curiosity in his gaze. Tyler leaned in, elbows on the table. You don't like talking about yourself, do you? He observed. Not to strangers, Montgomery countered. Good thing I plan on changing that. Montgomery's eyes met his then, steady and unreadable, but something crackled between them, something neither of them wanted to name just yet. The food arrived. Montgomery ate with precision, quiet and controlled. Tyler, in contrast, talked through every bite, spinning stories, pushing buttons, watching for reactions. Then, out of nowhere, why do you do it? Montgomery asked. Tyler paused, burger halfway to his mouth. Do what? Climb rooftops, chase moments. The way he said it, it wasn't just a question. It was something else, something deeper. Tyler put the burger down, studying him, because life's too short not to take risks. Montgomery's jaw tightened. Some risks aren't worth it. Depends on what you're risking it for. Silence. Heavy. Charged. Outside, rain had started to drizzle against the window, painting streaks through the neon glow. Tyler tilted his head. You ever take a risk, officer? Montgomery didn't answer, but his fingers curled slightly against the table. And in that moment, Tyler knew this was going somewhere. The air outside was thick with rain when they stepped back onto the sidewalk. Montgomery's cruiser was parked beneath a flickering streetlight, but neither of them moved toward it. Tyler felt his heart hammering, a rush of adrenaline not unlike standing on the edge of a rooftop. You gonna arrest me again? He asked, voice lower now. The teasing softened into something else. Montgomery exhaled, rubbing a hand down his face. You're impossible, but you're still here. The silence stretched between them, filled with the patter of rain, the distant hum of the city. Then, so fast Tyler barely saw it coming, Montgomery grabbed him by the jacket, pulled him close, and kissed him. Not gentle, not careful, just heat, tension, and a crackling fire that had been building from the moment they met. Tyler gasped against his mouth, then melted into it, hands gripping Montgomery's uniform, pulling him closer. The rain soaked them both, but neither of them cared. Montgomery pulled back first, breathing hard, his forehead pressed against Tyler's. This is a mistake. Tyler grinned, breathless. Then why does it feel so damn good? Montgomery didn't answer, but he didn't let go either. The car ride back was thick with unspoken words. Rain drummed against the windshield, streaking the glass in blurred trails of city lights. Montgomery's grip on the steering wheel was tight, his knuckles stark against his skin. Tyler, on the other hand, sat back in his seat, watching him with a slow, knowing smirk. You regretting that already, officer? Tyler teased, voice low and edged with mischief. Montgomery inhaled sharply through his nose. Shut up. That's a yes. Montgomery's fingers flexed, like he was fighting the urge to either strangle Tyler or pull him close again. Maybe both. The kiss outside the diner had been reckless, stupid, a violation of every rule Montgomery lived by. But for a moment, just one, it had felt like the only thing in the world that made sense. Now, in the cold light of reality, it was a mistake. It had to be. He pulled the cruiser to a stop outside Tyler's building, the engine rumbling as neither of them moved. Rain pattered on the rooftop, dripped down the windshield in lazy streaks. "You gonna say something? Or are we just gonna sit here pretending that didn't happen?" Tyler asked, turning to face him fully. Montgomery kept his eyes ahead. "This was nothing." Tyler let out a short laugh. "You kiss all your arrestees like that?" Montgomery clenched his jaw. "Get out of the car." "Tyler, you say my name like that, and you expect me to just walk away?" Montgomery turned then, eyes flashing. "Yes, because that's what needs to happen." Tyler studied him, the rigid shoulders, the clenched fists, the way his breathing had quickened just slightly. Betraying him. "You can lie to yourself all you want, officer," he murmured, voice dropping lower. "More dangerous, but I know what I felt. And so do you." Montgomery exhaled sharply, gripping the wheel like it was the only thing keeping him grounded. "This, whatever you think this is, can't happen. I have rules, a job, a life that doesn't involve." He trailed off, shaking his head. "Doesn't involve what?" Tyler pressed, leaning in just a fraction. Montgomery's throat worked as he swallowed. "You." Silence. Heavy. Then Tyler smirked, slow and deliberate. "You keep saying that, and yet, here we are." Montgomery shut his eyes briefly, like he was wrestling something deep inside. Then, before he could second-guess himself, he reached across, grabbed Tyler's jacket, and yanked him forward. Their mouths crashed together in something desperate, something raw. This time, there was no hesitation. Montgomery's fingers twisted in the fabric of Tyler's hoodie, pulling him closer, deeper, as if trying to chase away the inevitability of what this meant. Tyler melted into him, his hands sliding up Montgomery's chest, fingertips pressing into muscle, memorizing every inch. The rain outside blurred the world beyond them. Montgomery was the first to break away, his forehead pressed to Tyler's, breaths coming fast and uneven. "This is a bad idea." Tyler grinned against his mouth. "Then stop me." Montgomery didn't. Instead, he pulled Tyler back in, and for the first time in years, he let himself fall. Morning came like an uninvited guest, harsh, intrusive, and impossible to ignore. Montgomery woke to the dull ache of reality pressing against his skull, the scent of rain still lingering in the air. Beside him, Tyler was sprawled lazily across the sheets, one arm draped over his stomach, lips slightly parted in sleep. The early light carved soft shadows over his skin, tracing the shape of someone who, against all logic, Montgomery had let in, and now, he needed to let him go. Montgomery sat up slowly, scrubbing a hand down his face. Every nerve in his body screamed at him to stay, to reach out and pull Tyler back against him. But his mind was already racing ahead, to the consequences, the risks, the inevitable fallout. This was a mistake, a beautiful, intoxicating, utterly reckless mistake. Tyler shifted, a lazy smile curling at the edges of his lips before he even opened his eyes. "You always wake up looking this guilty?" Montgomery sighed, running a hand through his hair. "This shouldn't have happened." Tyler hummed, stretching like a cat. "You keep saying that, but it's starting to lose meaning." Montgomery turned to him, jaw clenched. "I'm serious, Tyler." "So am I." Tyler shot back, sitting up and resting his weight on one elbow. "You think I don't know what this is? What it means for you?" Montgomery looked away. He didn't want to have this conversation. Didn't want to hear the truth of it spoken out loud. "You're not the only one with something to lose, officer," Tyler continued, voice softer now. "But last night? That was real. And you know it." Montgomery's throat worked as he swallowed. Of course he knew it. That was the problem. Before he could respond, his phone buzzed angrily against the nightstand, shattering the fragile quiet between them. His stomach twisted when he saw the name on the screen. Captain Reyes. Shit. A cold dread seeped into his bones as he answered. "Montgomery. Get to the station. Now." No explanation. No room for argument. Just an order laced with something sharp and foreboding. Montgomery hung up, already reaching for his clothes. "Trouble?" Tyler asked, watching him closely. "I don't know yet," Montgomery admitted, but he had a feeling, deep and certain, that whatever awaited him at the station would be nothing short of disastrous. Tyler sat up fully, eyes narrowing. "You need backup?" Montgomery shook his head. "Stay out of this, Tyler. Pretty sure we passed that point last night." Montgomery exhaled sharply. He couldn't afford this, couldn't afford distractions. Complications. The weight of something he wasn't supposed to want. But as he left Tyler's apartment, his mind was a battlefield of conflict. Because the truth was, it was already too late. The following weeks felt like a carefully orchestrated performance. By day, we were the picture of a perfect couple: dinner dates, movie nights, late-night strolls under city lights. But when the sun went down, so did the facade. I could feel the distance between us. The invisible wall Matthew refused to let me past. He was there, touching me, holding me, but there was a part of him I could never quite reach. I told myself to be patient, that he would open up in time. But patience, I realized, had its limits. It started small, the subtle way his eyes narrowed when I spoke to a stranger. The slight tension in his jaw when I laughed a little too long at someone's joke. Then came the possessiveness in the way he gripped my hand in a crowd. The way his voice dropped whenever someone got too close. It was subtle, gentle, even, but control often disguised itself as care. And then came that night. My first gallery exhibition. I should have been overwhelmed with excitement, basking in the moment, surrounded by people celebrating my work. But Matthew's presence loomed over me like a shadow. He wasn't looking at the photographs. He was watching me, studying me, every step, every smile, every glance. When a journalist approached me for an interview, I noticed the way Matthew's expression darkened. And when the man extended his hand, just a professional courtesy, I heard Matthew's voice. Low but sharp. "You seem awfully friendly tonight." I turned, stunned. "What?" His smile was tight, humorless. "You've been busy charming the whole room." A slow heat rose in my chest. "Matthew, this is my job. This is my night." He said nothing, but his silence said everything. "What do you think I am?" My voice shook. "Something you can keep locked away?" His jaw tightened. Then, he turned to leave, and I knew if I didn't say something now, I'd never get the chance. "You don't trust me," I said, each word sharp as a blade. "You don't trust what we have. You just want to control me." He stopped, looked at me, and for a fleeting moment, I saw something beneath the anger, hurt. But it was too late. I exhaled, softer now. "Love isn't ownership. Matthew, if you can't trust me, then what do we have?" He didn't answer. The silence after Matthew left the gallery was deafening. I stood there, my heart pounding in my ears, feeling the weight of everything we had built crumbling around me. I had always believed that love was supposed to be freeing, that it was supposed to lift us up, not hold us down. But as the days passed without him, I was forced to confront the truth. I had lost myself in him. At first, the loneliness was unbearable. The apartment felt empty without his presence. The scent of him still lingering on my pillows. The faint echoes of his laughter trapped within the walls. But with each passing day, I found solace in the quiet. I focused on my work, poured my emotions into my paintings, rediscovering the passion that had once defined me before Matthew had ever stepped into my life. Then, weeks later, he came back. It was late, the city humming with life beyond my window. A soft knock on my door sent my pulse racing. When I opened it, Matthew stood there, disheveled, eyes tired, but different. There was no anger in his expression, no desperation, just a quiet sort of acceptance. "I was wrong," he admitted, his voice raw. "I was afraid of losing you. And in trying to keep you close, I pushed you away." I swallowed, my throat tight. "Matthew, no, let me say this," he pleaded. "I love you. I always have. But love isn't supposed to suffocate. I see that now." He exhaled, his hands clenched at his sides as if he was afraid to reach for me. I needed to figure things out, about myself, about us, and I needed to do it alone. I studied him, searching for the man I had once feared I would lose. But standing before me was someone new. Someone who had faced his demons and come out the other side. Not because of me, but for himself. "I don't expect you to forgive me right away," he continued, his voice softer now. I want a chance. A chance to love you the way you deserve." Tears pricked at the back of my eyes. It would have been easy to fall into his arms, to let the warmth of him erase all the pain. But love, real love, was more than just longing. It was work, it was choice. And for the first time, I knew we had the foundation to build something real. "I don't want perfect, Matthew," I whispered, stepping closer. "I just want honest." He let out a shaky breath, his fingers brushing over mine before clasping my hand tightly. And in that moment, I knew, we were finally free from the fears that had once held us captive. As he pulled me into his embrace, I realized that love, when freed from fear, had the power to heal. And for the first time, we were ready to embrace it. This was our second chance. Not to start over, but to start again, stronger, wiser, and ready to write a new chapter together.